Hello, I'm Tim. We have four group members. They are Taoyu, Weina, Tina, and Salami. Today we are going to talk about power, control, and supply chain, and we are group 3.
My name is Salami Abiodun. In explaining downstream marketers, they often have little to say on what they will market and are often measured on transactional measurements or total sales. The downside for this marketer is that they are often non-strategic and focused on marketing tactics, but the upside is that they are often safe and sound and secure for the short term. While the upstream marketers are often researchers and interact with the market to define long-term direction of where the market is. They bring in key products to define a roadmap based on future direction. This group has challenges as if they do not like their effort to the point of transaction, their effort will not be considered grounded, and their value to the company will be challenged. To round it up, upstream is proactive and looking ahead, and downstream is reactive and marketing what is handed to them.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm going to talk about the relationship between buyers and suppliers in power matrix. This power matrix tries to find the relationship between buyers and suppliers. The power base is quote from the Cox 2001. Buyers and suppliers can be understood by a way. Then, power matrix explained in detail. It builds on the resource of buyers, and suppliers can be exchanged. If people who can locate their position in the power matrix, they can move themselves into an advantageous position for benefits in the future. However, more industry insiders are incapable to find their own positions. Insiders believe that they have fully complete their sourcing decision making if they have successfully identified in which of the four quadrants their category of supply. In addition, they should be trying to transform the current supply market complex into their advantages in the future. However, more industry insiders are incapable to find their own positions in the power matrix. As to quadratic matrix, early studies of dependency have focused on effects. The buyer's dependence on the suppliers does not take into account in the supplier's dependency. Recently, researchers has been incorporated into dependency from the buyer's perspective. In other words, dependency is mutual. As a tool of investment management, the concept of portfolio model was designed by Harry in 1950s. In 1983, Krajcik was the first to introduce the concept into procurement field. The matrix is used as analytical tools for company analyzing. Supply risks are divided into four different parts: leverage items, static items, and non-critical items, and bottleneck items. For bottleneck items, these products have a modest impact on the company's financial performance. However, they have vulnerable to supply. The supply owns the dominant position of this product. The procurement strategies are generally recommended for this product are based primarily on the dependence and reduction of advice effect on the advice position. The leverage product can be obtained from various suppliers. These products account for the relative large share of the cost of the terminal product and in relative low supply risk. The buyers have a lot of negotiation possibility and incentive mechanisms. At the same time, the supply risk is small. These characteristics demonstrate a positive attitude towards the supply market. As to routine product, the unit value of this product is usually very low. In addition, many alternative suppliers can be found. From a buying point of view, these projects only lead to very few technical and business problems. Then critical products. These products are of considerable value to the organization in terms of large impact on profit and high supply risk. Often strategic products can be purchased from only one supplier or single source, resulting in significant supply risks. Buying leverage requires not just the acceptance of the current supply market complex, but also the ability to change it in the future, so the buyers can extract more value for money from suppliers.
So I'm Abiodun. For my second slide, I'll be talking about supply chain management flows and processes. The goal of supply chain management is to provide high product availability through efficient and timely fulfillment of customer demand. Obviously, you will need more than the effective flow of products from the point of origin to the point of consumption. Other flows are also important. In their roles as suppliers, companies have vested interest in the financial flow. Suppliers want to get paid for their products and services as soon as possible, and with minimal also. Because of the processes that have to take place at different types of participating companies, each company needs supply chain managers to help improve their flows of management of product information and money. Well, to talk about the processes, the first process is planning. The plan process seeks to create effective long and short range supply chain strategies. From the design of the supply chain network to the prediction of the customer demand, supply chain leaders need to develop integrated supply chain strategies. The second process is procurement. The buy process focuses on the purchase of the required raw materials, components, and goods. As a consumer, you are pretty familiar with buying stuff. The third stage is production. This involves the manufacturing, conversion, and assembling of materials into finished goods or parts for other products. Supply chain managers provide production support and ensure that key materials are available when needed. The fourth process is distribution. This manages the logistical flow of goods across the supply chain. Transportation companies, third-party logistical firms, and others, ensuring that goods are flowing quickly and safely towards the point of demand. The last process is customer interface. The demand process involves around all the issues that relate to planning customer interaction, satisfying their needs, and fulfilling others perfectly. Finally, an organization's supply chain structure and relationship will be influenced by its industry geographical scope of activity, supply base, product variety, fulfillment methods, and demand patterns.
Supply chain. What is supply management? Supply management is the act of identifying, acquiring, and managing the resources and suppliers that are essential to the operations of an organization. The main goals within supply management are cost control, the efficient allocation of resources, risk management, and the effective gathering of information to be used in strategic business decisions. In supply chain, we have upstream supply side and downstream demand side. The supply side usually includes the supplier of raw materials and products, while the demand side usually are the dealer, wholesaler, and consumers. There are three benefits for supply chain management. Firstly, improve delivery reliability and flexibility to increase customer satisfaction. Secondly, reduce inventory and production and the distribution costs will help the organization lower the costs for the company. Finally, error cost removal, abnormal event elimination will make sure the overall process quality of the enterprise is optimized. In supply chain management, we will also meet a lot of challenges. Firstly, the long lead times with global supply chains. Low production capacity, spikes in order and demand will make it hard to achieve consistent lead times. Secondly, increases in labor costs in lower cost regions. Different countries have different labor costs. Lower production cost may lead to higher labor costs. Variable logistics and transportation costs. Errors occur at each delivery point in supply chain will make it difficult to accurate lead times. Finally, variability across the supply chain. The high variability leads to low trust in the supply chain, so the customers will lose trust to the organization. Ethical supply. Why companies need to be concerned about ethical supply? Because the society is concerned about it from three aspects. Firstly, the environmental effects. Secondly, health and safety. Finally, is the consumer rights. People nowadays are concerned about the protection of the environment. And in food industry, the uses of pesticides, hormone treatment of animals are found, and which causes people concern more about the health and safety. Finally is the consumer rights. Legislations about people's right to safety. People will concern more about their right to choose and to be heard. Why sustainable and ethical supply bother? Because the pressure from the stakeholders, the risks, the legislation, social and the environment. Pressure from the more stakeholders, for example, the public, the government, and people who are interested in your company. Risks, for instance, Nike was found to use child labor, which leads to reputational risks. Legislation, due to the regulations and the laws, company will need to be more careful about the supply chain because some production may cause environmental pollution.
Hi, my name is Vina Meng. The triple bottom line is an accounting framework that incorporates three dimensions of performance: social, environmental, and financial. This differs from traditional reporting frameworks as it includes ecological or environmental and social measures that can be difficult to assign appropriate means of measurement. The triple bottom line dimensions are also commonly called the three Ps: people, planet, and profit. Firstly, about the people means this can include everybody from farmers supplying raw materials on up to the CEO of the company. About the planet means triple bottom line companies look at the entire life cycle of their actions and try to determine the true cost of what they are doing in regards to the environment. The last about the profit means financial and economic benefits, including profit. Next, I will talk about the green supply, based on reduction of core activities, ecological impact, cost saving, quality, reliability, performance, and energy efficiency. In this context, the respect of environmental regulations is fundamental to achieve not only a reduction of ecological damage, but also to overall economic profit. In business, the cradle to grave is a firm's perspective on the environmental impact created by their products or activities from the beginning of its life cycle to its end or disposal. The cradle to grave perspective on a firm's environmental impact acknowledges that a certain amount of waste is the cost of doing business. Toward this end, firms conduct cradle to grave analysis, also known as life cycle assessment, to understand their environmental impact. A cradle to grave analysis does three things: collects, evaluates, and interprets data associated with the environmental impact of a firm. However, the Earth's resources are limited and not infinite, and consequently, a linear economy is unsustainable. Cradle to cradle is a design concept inspired by nature, in which products are created according to the principles of an idle-secure economy. The difficulties cradle to cradle from conversion, recycling, and the concept of eco-efficiency, and the two nutrient circles. The cradle to cradle design concepts distinguish between the biological and the technological cycles for materials. Waste materials in an old product become the food for a new product. In the biological cycle, materials are returned to the biosphere in the form of compost or other nutrients, from which new materials can be created. In the technological cycle, materials that are not used up during use in the product can be reprocessed to allow them to be used in a new product. At the end, I will talk about the advantage of cradle to cradle. It offers companies the opportunity to present their products as no longer just for sale, but as available for use. After the use of the product, the materials are taken back as part of a reprocessing system and therefore remain in circulation. Companies may become less dependent on price fluctuations in raw materials market. The economy of the whole value creation circle is improved. The value chain is built from raw materials to remanufacture of the product.
In conclusion, it seems likely that supply chains will become more and more important to firm success over time. If so, the temptation to use and perhaps abuse power in an effort to improve one's own performance at the expense of other supply chain members will grow. Although the possibility remains that the thoughtful use of power for mutual benefit can lift the supply chain as a whole. Given this context, we believe power will continue to be one of the most long-standing, yet still most salient research topics within supply chain management. Thank you. The first question for our presentation was, in your experience, how much knowledge about the supply chain does the downstream organization or consumer have, and how is this knowledge gained? The downstream organizations are organizations producing a new product, so they have to make sure consumers have enough knowledge about their product and they are aware of the details of the product. They can gain this knowledge by paying close attention to the dramatic changes in consumer behavior, by listening to the voice of the customers, engaging consumers based on where they are in the customer life cycle, make sure they are speaking to the customers, and customize their content to be accessible to the customers. Thank you.
Question 2. If the product in buyer dominance, normally supplier need to persuade the customer to buy. Product or service often has many items in stock and has many substitutes. They often provide discount and price will go down. If the product in supplier dominance, supply often exists demand, so price often higher than normal. In addition, product has less alternatives. If the product in interdependence and independence, the market often normally, price might fluctuate in a one interval. So when we buy product, consider price with Cox framework for reference.
For the question, how many stages upstream supply chain do you think an organization ought to be responsible for? I believe the organization has to consider the stakeholders like procurement, suppliers, manufacturers, and sales. For example, we have to manage the inventory linked as to the number of suppliers, trade-off for lead time versus cost. The organization can create upstream consolidation hubs, align buying volumes to optimal shipping modes. The final target is to reduce the costs, increase visibility and control, decrease the numbers of mid and downstream suppliers. Ultimately, supply chain management helps the organization to achieve profit maximization.